The Galactic Council had long established its reign over the galaxy, governing countless worlds with an iron grip, and enforcing a strict order that allowed no room for disobedience. Their rule was unquestioned, their authority absolute. Among these many planets, Earth was barely a speck, a planet forgotten by the galactic powers, left in the shadows of history. Once home to a thriving civilization, Earth had been devastated by a catastrophic war centuries ago, one that had nearly wiped humanity off the map. The remnants of its once great cities now lay in ruin, and Earth's people were considered little more than survivors, insignificant and primitive by the standards of the Galactic Council. Yet, what the Council did not know, and what they failed to realize, was that Earth had never truly been defeated. Beneath the surface of this seemingly backward planet, a new force was silently growing, waiting for the moment to strike. A small but determined group of Earth's greatest minds, scientists, engineers, and military leaders, had been working in secret for years. At the heart of their efforts was General Ava Foster, a brilliant tactician and strategist who had risen from the ashes of humanity's near extinction. Foster and her team had found a way to tap into Earth's lost technological legacy, and through sheer ingenuity, they had begun developing weapons far beyond what the Council could have ever imagined. The catalyst for their revival came when they unearthed an ancient relic, a piece of Earth's forgotten past, long thought to be nothing more than myth. This artifact was no ordinary relic. Hidden within its cryptic inscriptions were blueprints for weapons of unimaginable power, technologies so advanced that even the most powerful beings in the galaxy would quake in fear if they knew they existed. It was a key to unlocking humanity's greatest potential, a blueprint for victory, and a promise of revenge. With these new tools in hand, General Foster and her team moved forward with their plans, knowing that their actions would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council, for all its might, remained blissfully unaware of the storm that was quietly building on the horizon. As the Council gathered in its grand chambers to discuss matters of interplanetary trade and diplomacy, the first ripple of Earth's awakening reached the stars. General Foster's team activated an ancient Earth defense system, a dormant network of weapons designed to protect humanity from any future threats. This activation sent a signal across the galaxy, a warning shot that reverberated through the cosmos. The signal was subtle, almost imperceptible to those not looking for it, but it was enough. It was the first tremor in a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council. A low-frequency pulse, barely noticeable by the average being, disrupted communication across several Council-controlled sectors. What seemed like a minor technical glitch was, in fact, a message, a signal that had been lying dormant for centuries, now reawakened and sent forth into the galaxy. It was a message not just of warning, but of defiance. The Galactic Council, though initially dismissive of the anomaly, soon realized that something had changed. Earth's quiet, isolated existence was no longer a fact, it had become a threat. And the Council had no idea just how deep this threat ran. For the first time in a long while, the galaxy felt the stirrings of fear, but it was fear of something unexpected. The once weak humans, who had barely survived their own catastrophic war, had become something far more dangerous. The Council had underestimated them for too long, and now the consequences were starting to unfold. General Ava Foster, watching from the shadows as the galaxy stirred in confusion, could feel the weight of the moment. This was only the beginning. The Galactic Council would soon learn what humanity was capable of, and by then, it would be far too late for them to do anything about it. Earth had begun its quiet, unstoppable awakening, and soon the galaxy would realize just how devastating humanity's revenge could be. The Galactic Council, a vast organization made up of countless alien species, had long dismissed Earth as a relic of the past, a planet that had seen its prime and was now nothing more than a forgotten world on the edge of the galaxy. To them, Earth posed no threat. It was a planet of survivors, not conquerors. However, this belief would soon be shattered. The Council's representatives, including the sharp and calculating Kalara from the Kralak species and the seasoned Senator Tauru, an expert diplomat, gathered in the Grand Council chambers to discuss the troubling signals Earth had sent out, dismissing them as nothing more than an old weapon malfunction or a fluke. They believed that Earth's attempts to assert any kind of power were futile, and so, with their usual confidence, they ordered a diplomatic envoy to investigate. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Ava Foster was preparing for something far greater than a simple warning. Having carefully studied the Council's dismissive response, she knew that it would take more than a mere signal to convince them of Earth's new strength. The ancient technologies she and her team had unearthed were more than just tools. They were weapons capable of reshaping the power dynamics of the entire galaxy. As the Council's diplomats made their way to Earth, Iva and her team activated one of their most dangerous creations, the ion storm cannons, a weapon designed to disrupt the energy shields of entire planets and even disable the infrastructure of enemy worlds. It was a quiet move, one that didn't involve immediate violence, but it would send a shockwave through the galaxy. Then came the moment that sent the galaxy reeling, a test of unimaginable power. Earth's newly developed fleet, constructed using the advanced technology General Foster had so carefully cultivated, launched an unexpected strike on a military installation belonging to the Zorth Empire, a ruthless alien race that had long plundered Earth's resources. The Zorth Empire, notorious for its brutal tactics and relentless conquests, had been one of the primary reasons for Earth's downfall centuries ago. They had believed that humanity would never rise again, but they were wrong. The fleet that now attacked the Zorth installation was not a ragtag group of survivors, but a highly advanced and coordinated military force. The ion storm cannons, hidden within the fleet, tore through the Zorth Empire's shields like they were made of paper. Entire military bases were crippled in moments. The devastation was shocking. The Zorth forces were caught completely off guard, unable to retaliate against such an unexpected attack. The sight of their once impenetrable defenses collapsing was a blow that no one in the galaxy had anticipated. The attack wasn't just a demonstration of power, it was a statement. Earth was no longer weak, it was a force to be reckoned with. Back in the Council chambers, chaos erupted as the news spread of Earth's strike against the Zorth Empire. Kalara, ever the strategist, felt the tide of their confidence begin to shift. Earth's actions were impossible to ignore now, and the galaxy was beginning to realize just how much they had underestimated humanity. Senator Tauru, who had always been a proponent of diplomacy, now found himself questioning the assumptions that had been made about Earth. The galaxy's perception of humanity was changing rapidly, from that of a primitive, defeated species to one of calculated power and unyielding resolve. The Galactic Council, once convinced that Earth posed no threat, now understood the gravity of the situation. General Ava Foster's move had been a stroke of brilliance, a covert attack that had proven beyond a doubt that humanity had not only survived, but had evolved into something entirely new, a species with the potential to challenge the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Earth was no longer a forgotten backwater planet. It was a rising power that could not be ignored. The Council's diplomats, now sent to Earth to negotiate, were stepping into a world where they had no control, where every move they made would be carefully watched and potentially countered with deadly force. The galaxy stood in stunned silence, unable to fully comprehend the extent of the transformation that Earth had undergone. The once fragile, backward world now had the power to challenge even the mightiest of galactic empires. The first strike had been made, and its repercussions would be felt throughout the galaxy. General Ava Foster had not just awakened Earth's power, she had sparked a revolution that would forever change the course of galactic history. As the diplomats from the Galactic Council prepared to land on Earth, they did so with a mix of dread and uncertainty, knowing full well that they were no longer in control of the situation. Humanity had made its move, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council, once a united and powerful force that governed the stars with unquestionable authority, was now in chaos. The sudden and unexpected rise of Earth had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and the Council's complacency was shattered in an instant. Supreme Chancellor Velara, the highest authority in the Council, was shaken to her core as the reports flooded in. Earth, once dismissed as insignificant, had demonstrated a terrifying potential that no one had anticipated. The Zorith Empire's sudden and humiliating defeat was proof enough that Earth was no longer the weak planet it had once been. Velara knew that something had to be done, but the question was, what? She immediately called for an emergency session of the Council, summoning representatives from every corner of the galaxy to discuss the looming threat. As the Council convened, the tension in the air was palpable. The debate was fierce and fraught with uncertainty. Clara, the cold and calculating ambassador from the Kralak species, was the first to speak up. With her sharp, angular features and piercing eyes, she exuded a confidence that made many uneasy. Her voice was steady, but there was an underlying edge of anger. "We cannot allow this human uprising to go unchecked," she declared, her voice echoing across the chamber. "We must strike immediately. Show them the might of the Galactic Council before they become an even greater threat. Let us crush them before they grow too bold." But not all of the Council agreed. Senator Taru, a seasoned diplomat from the serene yet wise Trithan race, countered with a more cautious approach. His years of experience had taught him the value of negotiation, and he wasn't about to rush into conflict without understanding the full scope of the situation. "We should not be hasty," he urged, his voice calm but firm. "This is not a simple rebellion. Earth may have weapons we do not understand. We must consider the possibility that diplomacy can still resolve this without bloodshed." The debate stretched on for hours, with no clear resolution. The powerhouses of the galaxy, from the aggressive Zorith Empire to the enigmatic Rillian, all weighed in with their opinions, some calling for military action, others suggesting a more measured response. In the end, the Council voted to send a diplomatic envoy to Earth, hoping to contain the situation through peaceful negotiations. But there was one fatal flaw in their decision: their complete underestimation of Earth's true capabilities. They believed that Earth's weapons were still primitive, that their technological advances were just a lucky break. They couldn't have been more wrong. Meanwhile, back on Earth, General Ava Foster was already preparing for the inevitable. She had anticipated that the Council would send an envoy to negotiate. In her mind, this was just a stalling tactic, a way for the Council to buy time before they launched a full-scale invasion. Ava knew the Council was not interested in peace. They were interested in domination. She had no intention of waiting for them to make their move. The time for diplomacy was over. Ava had already begun making the final preparations for a devastating strike, a strike that would send a clear message to the Council that Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. Earth's forces, now highly advanced and coordinated, were ready to deliver a series of forceful but precise strikes that would demonstrate Earth's strength without tipping the balance into all-out war. Ava's strategy was clear: push the Galactic Council to the edge, force them to recognize humanity's power and survival instincts, and make them understand that Earth was a force that could not be suppressed or controlled. As the diplomatic envoy prepared to leave for Earth, the galaxy held its breath. The Council believed they were taking a diplomatic approach, but they had underestimated the true nature of the threat they were dealing with. The envoy's arrival on Earth would mark the beginning of a new chapter, one in which the fate of the galaxy would hang in the balance. But General Foster's next moves would determine whether humanity would bend to the will of the Council or forge its own path in the stars. Every decision now had the power to tip the scales, and Eva knew that she had only one chance to ensure Earth's survival. The countdown had begun, and Earth was ready to make its stand. The Galactic Council would soon learn just how dangerous humanity could be when cornered. The diplomatic envoy arrived at Earth's newly built Terra Citadel, a symbol of humanity's newfound strength and technological advancement. Towering spires made of gleaming metal rose from the surface, and advanced defense systems hummed quietly in the background, a testament to the power Earth had amassed in secrecy. The citadel was far from the decaying ruins of old cities that had once dotted Earth's surface. It was a fortress, one designed not just for protection, but for asserting Earth's dominance on a galactic scale. The envoy, led by Senator Taru and a team of emissaries representing various alien species, stepped cautiously onto Earth's soil. They were greeted with a cold yet calculated hospitality, one that made it clear to them that Earth was not the vulnerable planet it once was. As the ambassadors from the Galactic Council entered the Citadel's towering halls, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Every move, every word, was weighed and analyzed. General Ava Foster, along with her inner circle of trusted advisors, stood at the forefront of the negotiations. She didn't offer the warmth of a traditional welcome, but instead gave them an unwavering, almost mechanical hospitality. She had no need for pleasantries. Earth had no reason to pretend weakness anymore. Ava's cold, piercing gaze set the tone for what was about to unfold. The Council's diplomats were about to learn just how much Earth had changed. The negotiations began with a polite but tense exchange, as Senator Taru attempted to ease the mood. His voice, soft but measured, sought to find common ground. "We do not wish for conflict," he said, his tone diplomatic. "We come to discuss how Earth can reintegrate into the Galactic Council peacefully." But Ava wasn't here to reintegrate. She was here to assert Earth's sovereignty. Slowly, she revealed the true scope of Earth's capabilities, as though the information was a delicate thread that, once pulled, would unravel the very fabric of the Council's authority. First, she spoke of Earth's newly developed fleet, but that was just the surface. With a calculated motion, Ava presented evidence of something far more devastating: intergalactic portals. These portals, built using technology from the ancient relic they had uncovered, could bypass any defense the Galactic Council had. A single portal could transport fleets, armies, or weapons across vast distances in a heartbeat, striking anywhere, anytime. "Earth is no longer bound by your council's rules," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Our power is not just in our weapons, it's in our ability to strike anywhere, with no warning." A hushed silence fell over the room as the full weight of Earth's capabilities settled in. The emissaries shifted uncomfortably, sensing that their peaceful negotiations were slipping through their fingers. But it was not just the scale of Earth's power that was at play, it was the subtle shift in power dynamics. Ava had not made any threats, but the implications of her words were clear. Earth would not bow to the Council. If the Galactic Council refused to recognize Earth's sovereignty, they would unleash the full might of their technology, and the galaxy would have no defense against it. The tension was palpable when Clara, the sharp and provocative Kralak ambassador, leaned forward, her reptilian eyes fixed on Ava. "You think your toys can threaten us?" Clara's voice was a low hiss. "You underestimate the might of the Council. Your pathetic planet can't stand against us." But Ava remained unmoved, her composure unshaken. Clara's attempt to provoke her was clear, a test of Earth's resolve, but Ava refused to take the bait. She had expected this. Instead of retaliating with a rash move, she calmly countered, "Underestimating us is your greatest mistake. I have shown you our capabilities, and I have shown you what we can do. The question is, do you wish to see how far we will go to ensure our survival, or will you recognize our right to stand as equals among the stars?" The Kralak ambassador's sharp claws clicked together in frustration, but she said nothing more. Ava's steady response had turned the tables, shifting the balance of power in her favor. It was no longer a matter of if Earth could survive or resist. It was a matter of how the Galactic Council would respond to the undeniable truth that humanity was no longer the weak, backward species they had once dismissed. In that moment, the diplomats realized they had underestimated humanity, and they were now at the mercy of Earth's power. General Ava Foster had played her diplomatic gambit perfectly. She had not only shown them that Earth had grown beyond their reach, but she had done so without ever raising her voice in anger. Her calm was her weapon, and it had shifted the entire negotiation in Earth's favor. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Galactic Council had only one choice left: to either accept Earth's place among the stars or face the consequences of their failure to act. Tensions reached a boiling point as Earth unveiled its most devastating weapon, the Advanced Terror Weapons, a technological marvel that could obliterate entire fleets in the blink of an eye. The weapon, a product of years of secret research and development, was designed to completely disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now faced an undeniable threat. No one had expected Earth to possess such destructive power, and the realization sent shockwaves through the Council. Supreme Chancellor Velara, a seasoned politician who had carefully navigated the complexities of galactic diplomacy for decades, now found herself in a position she had never imagined. Earth was no longer a mere pawn in the galactic game. They had become a formidable player, and Velara was forced to confront the magnitude of the Council's mistake. As the negotiations faltered, with each side stubbornly clinging to their positions, the atmosphere in the room grew increasingly charged. Ava, with a steady hand and unwavering resolve, made her move. The time for polite words and diplomacy was over. "This ends now," she declared, her voice cold yet filled with authority. She laid down the ultimatum that would change the course of history. Earth demanded equal standing within the Galactic Council. No longer would humanity be relegated to the fringes of galactic affairs. But the stakes were even higher. Ava made it clear that if any planet dared to attack Earth, it would trigger the complete disintegration of their military capabilities, rendering their fleets and defenses useless in the blink of an eye. She looked each of the Council members in the eye, her words carrying the weight of an irreversible decision. "We are no longer the weak humans you once subjugated," she said, her voice resolute. "We are humanity, and we will no longer be your slaves." The room fell silent as the gravity of Ava's words sank in. The Council, once sure of their dominance, now found themselves facing a new reality. Humanity was no longer something to be controlled or dismissed. It was a power to be reckoned with. The galaxy's established order was on the brink of collapse. Ava's ultimatum had effectively turned the tide in Earth's favor. But even as the Council pondered the implications of this shift, Zorath Emperor Carrick, a ruthless and power-hungry leader who had long resented Earth's rise, saw this as the perfect opportunity to strike back. He believed that Earth's newly acquired power could be crushed easily, that their defense systems were merely an elaborate show of force. With his immense military power and an unshakable belief in the superiority of his empire, Carrick gathered his most elite fleet, preparing for a final assault on Earth. He believed that by destroying Earth's defense network, he could wipe out the heart of this new threat once and for all. But General Ava Foster was prepared for this. She had anticipated that Carrick would try to take advantage of the situation, believing Earth to be vulnerable. What Carrick didn't know was that Ava had a weapon so powerful, so terrifying, that it could not only neutralize entire fleets, but also threaten the very fabric of the galaxy itself. Ava had secretly activated Project Phoenix, a classified defense system that had been in the works for years. The weapon was capable of destroying entire fleets in seconds, but its true power lay in its ability to destroy a star, a process that would send shockwaves through the surrounding sectors, rendering them uninhabitable for centuries. A single strike from this weapon would cripple entire regions of space, rendering any further attempts at conquest utterly meaningless. As Carrick's fleet made its approach, Ava watched from the command center, her face stoic, her mind sharp. She knew the stakes were higher than ever. If the Zorath forces moved forward, they would face an unstoppable force, one that could obliterate them in an instant. The countdown began, the tension in the room thick enough to cut through with a knife. Carrick's fleet, confident in its superiority, moved toward Earth with terrifying speed, unaware of the trap that had been set for them. Ava's fingers hovered over the controls, ready to unleash the full power of Project Phoenix. She had given the Council every chance to reconsider, but now there would be no turning back. If Carrick's forces attacked, Earth would not just defend itself, it would make an example of anyone who dared challenge its newfound power. The galaxy was about to witness the full extent of Earth's might, and the consequences of underestimating humanity would be felt far beyond the reaches of their home planet. The turning point had arrived, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. In a desperate final act of defiance, Emperor Carrick of the Zorath Empire, fueled by a desire to crush Earth's newfound strength, launched an all-out assault on the planet. He had underestimated humanity at every turn, but now, with his full fleet and the might of several allied species behind him, he believed Earth would be nothing more than a stepping stone in his path to dominance. As his ships cut through the stars, massive formations descended upon Earth, their weapons primed to annihilate the planet's defenses. The sky was filled with the dark shadows of battle cruisers and warships, descending like vultures to take their prize. But what Carrick did not know was that Earth was prepared for this moment, its defenses primed and ready. General Ava Foster, standing at the heart of Earth's command center, watched the fleet approach. She knew this was the moment when all the tension, all the struggle would be resolved. Earth's ion storm cannons, a powerful new invention designed to disrupt shields and tear through military armor, fired relentlessly, sending devastating waves of energy across the battlefield. The first few shots tore through the Zorath warships like paper, disintegrating entire fleets before they even had the chance to land. In perfect coordination, Earth's hyperdrive missiles launched, streaking across the sky with unrelenting speed. These missiles, faster than any craft the galaxy had ever seen, found their targets with deadly precision. Zorath ships exploded in a series of blinding flashes, their crew never having the chance to react. Carrick's fleet, once so confident, now found itself crumbling under Earth's unexpected might. His warships, once seen as invincible, were reduced to wreckage in seconds. The invasion, which had been so meticulously planned, was falling apart before it could even begin. But Carrick, unwilling to admit defeat, ordered his remaining forces to continue the attack, even as his ships were torn apart. He was blinded by rage and the thirst for victory, unable to comprehend the true nature of Earth's power. But then the unimaginable happened. As the battle reached its peak, when it seemed like victory was just within Earth's grasp, General Ava Foster made the decision to deploy Earth's most powerful weapon, the Stellar Annihilator. This was the ultimate weapon, one so devastating that it could collapse stars into supernova-like bursts. A single strike from this weapon would cause a massive explosion, vaporizing entire fleets and sending shockwaves through multiple star systems. As the weapon powered up, the surrounding ships in the fleet could only watch in horror, unable to escape the inevitable. The weapon activated with a terrifying brilliance, a beam of focused energy that shot toward the sky, piercing through the fabric of space itself. It struck a nearby star, causing the sun to collapse into a violent, raging burst of light, its power radiating outward in an unstoppable wave. The light was so intense that it blotted out the stars, and the surrounding space shook with the force of the blast. The shockwave from the supernova-like explosion sent ripples of destruction through the Zorath fleet, and Carrick's forces began to retreat, realizing that this was a fight they could not win. As the Zorath ships turned tail and fled into the void, the Galactic Council's fleets were left in stunned silence. They had watched as Earth, a planet they had long considered insignificant, demonstrated a power that was beyond their wildest imagination. What had once been a planet on the edge of galactic history was now a force to be reckoned with, capable of reshaping the very structure of the galaxy. The once dismissed humans had proven that they were not just survivors, they were conquerors in their own right. It was at that moment that the Galactic Council had no choice but to confront the undeniable truth. Earth was no longer just a pawn in their game of interstellar politics. It was the dominant power in the galaxy. Earth had surpassed their expectations in every way possible, and now the Council would have to learn to live with the consequences. The human spirit, resilient and fiercely determined, had triumphed. The humans who had once been overlooked, oppressed, and cast aside had risen to claim their place in the stars. Carrick, having witnessed the full extent of Earth's power, understood that his ambitions were shattered, his fleet had been crushed, and his forces had been routed. The Zorath Empire and the galactic powers who had thought Earth weak had been forced to face an unrelenting power they could not control. As the dust settled, the galaxy would have to reckon with a new era. Earth's victory was not just about military might, it was about the spirit of humanity itself, a spirit that would no longer bend to the will of others. The Galactic Council, once full of arrogance and superiority, now had to contend with the undeniable rise of Earth. The old balance of power had shattered, and humanity, finally free of their chains, stood poised to lead the galaxy on their own terms. The aftermath of Earth's monumental victory reverberated throughout the galaxy, leaving the once mighty Galactic Council crippled, its foundations shattered. The remaining leaders, many of whom had once looked down upon Earth, now faced the undeniable truth: humanity had not only survived, they had become the dominant force in the galaxy. With their fleets scattered and their political power in ruins, the Council called for one last meeting, a final attempt to address the new reality that had been thrust upon them. General Ava Foster, the woman who had led Earth to this incredible triumph, was called upon to lead the Council itself. With her brilliance and military strategies, she had proven that Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored or suppressed. The offer was one of immense power, a position that would give her control over the galaxy's future. Yet, to the surprise of everyone, Ava refused. She knew that leadership by one species, even one as capable as Earth, could never bring true peace to the galaxy. Instead, she offered humanity's assistance in reshaping the galaxy, not for domination, but for a brighter, more unified future. Ava's refusal to seize absolute power was a statement in itself. It was a recognition that true victory was not about holding sway over others, but about creating something lasting and just. Humanity, once seen as fractured and insignificant, now offered itself as the guiding force for a new galactic order, one built on cooperation, equality, and respect among all species. The lessons learned through centuries of war and suffering, the very experiences that had shaped humanity's resilience, were now to be applied on a galactic scale. The new alliance that emerged from the ashes of the old council was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. No longer would a few powerful empires dictate the fate of countless worlds. Earth, now the heart of this reformed galactic union, worked tirelessly to ensure that all species, regardless of size or power, would have an equal voice. The resources of the galaxy would be shared, not plundered. Conflicts would be settled through dialogue, not destruction. The lessons of humanity's past, of division, war, and conquest, were to be the guiding principles of this new age, ensuring that such mistakes would never be repeated. As Earth took its place at the center of this new alliance, its people did not revel in the idea of revenge. While their enemies had been defeated, it was not the destruction of their enemies that mattered most. What truly mattered was their ability to guide the galaxy toward a future where peace and mutual respect were the bedrock of interstellar relations. Earth's revenge had been complete, yes, but it was a victory that transcended destruction. It was a victory of ideas, of the ability to overcome the odds and lead others into a better future. The leaders of the defeated galactic powers, who had once thought of Earth as weak, now looked to the humans with a mixture of awe and fear. They realized that the human spirit, with its resilience and adaptability, was capable of more than just survival. It was capable of leading others, of rebuilding civilizations, and of inspiring a galaxy to become better. The Council's fleets were gone, its authority broken, and in its place stood Earth, no longer a passive observer, but the architect of a new galactic order. With Earth at the helm, the galaxy began to transform. Old hostilities faded into the background, replaced by a new vision for the future. Humanity was not content with simply being the most powerful species in the galaxy. They wanted to ensure that their power was used to uplift others, to build a future where all species could coexist in peace. The stars no longer belonged to the Council, nor did they belong to any single species. The stars now belonged to Earth, and with that ownership came the responsibility to shape the galaxy in a way that honored the sacrifices made to get there. The galaxy, once divided by endless wars and rivalries, now stood on the precipice of something new. Earth's leadership was not defined by its military might, but by its ability to inspire cooperation and mutual respect. And in that, humanity found its greatest strength, not in domination, but in the willingness to work with others to create something better for all. The human spirit had triumphed, not through destruction, but through the unrelenting belief in a better future for the galaxy. With Earth now the guiding force, the stars would shine brighter, not because of war and conflict, but because of the unity and strength humanity had brought to the farthest corners of the galaxy.